Hi, Marie here from Pottery Crafters. In this video, I'll show you how to make two different styles of candle holders that are easy to make, giving you plenty of inspiration to create your own candle holders. All the supplies and resources mentioned are listed for you below in the show notes. Let's start making some candle holders. I'm using number 11 A-Mix stoneware white clay. This is a step I'm sure many of us would like to skip, but we can't because the clay must have the same consistency throughout with no air bubbles. If the air bubble's too big, it'll be impossible for you to center the clay. You can check out a few of my wedging techniques on my Pottery Crafters website, where I show 5 different ways you can wedge clay with a step-by-step video. I have the link for you below in the show notes. The next is weighing out your clay. I'm weighing out 1.3 pounds on my digital scale, or 600 grams of clay for each candle holder. It's always good to weigh out your clay to get a feel for the size of the piece that you're creating. Once the clay is wedged and weighed, the fun part begins. Throwing the candle holders. I'm going to use bats so I can remove the candle holders without touching the clay right after I throw them. Be sure your arms are anchored to your legs or the side of your body to help your hands stay in place while centering your clay. I like to use a sponge when I center, so when I feel any friction, I can squeeze a little water on the clay without taking my hands off the clay. If you're having any trouble centering, I have both an easy step-by-step video and a post with a video on how to fix 11 problems you may run into while centering your clay. I have the links for you below in the show notes. I start opening the clay by pressing down in the middle with my knuckle. The rotation of the wheel opens the clay in the middle. Add water when you feel any friction from the clay. Continue opening the clay by pressing down with both thumbs. Place your anchor hand on the side of the clay and use your fingers to continue opening. Push the clay outward to the width that you want the base of your candle holder to be. My base is going to be 4 inches across. Make sure you have enough clay on the bottom. If you're unsure, it's best to check the thickness with the needle tool. So I want to make sure that I have enough clay on the bottom. Now for the fun part. Pulling up the walls. Apply pressure with both fingers as you move upward. Make sure to keep the pressure even and consistent. Compress the rim and bottom to keep the cracks away. Add more water to the clay if you feel any friction on your hands. Another upward pull. I find this part of throwing the most satisfying. Don't pull up too much clay at once. The wheel should rotate at least once before moving your fingers upward. Color in the clay with both hands if it flares out. Make sure your hands are wet. Another pull upward. I'm keeping my hands steady and even and anchoring my left thumb to my right finger to help keep the pressure consistent and the thickness of the sides even throughout my piece. Now that I have the height, I'm going to start forming the candle holder. Starting at the bottom, pushing my fingers inside the wall outwards while supporting the outside with the other hand until about halfway up. Now I reverse it and push the outside inward as I'm bracing the inside. As you notice, the height of the candle holder went down while forming the dome. That's why you want to make sure the height is tall enough. Go over the shape one more time to round it out a bit more. Soak up any water on the inside with my sponge on a stick. Get any slip off with the metal scraper. I use this scraper a lot because I love the way it bends and it's easy to work with, giving the candle holder a nice smooth finish. Compress the rim one more time and smooth it out with a chamois. Put a nice foot on with the ultimate edger. Set this one aside and work on the next candle holder. Center the clay. Centering was the hardest part of throwing for me. It would take me longer to center than it would to make the pottery. It did take a while for me to master centering. I'm going to form a similar cylinder with the 4-inch base across also. I do have a step-by-step post on my Pottery Crafters website that guides you through throwing a cylinder on the pottery wheel. If you want to check it out, I have the link below for you. For this candle holder, I'm leaving a bit more clay on the rim so I can flare out the rim. Otherwise, the rim will get too thin. Throw this to the same height. I do use a bit more water than some potters. It's a matter of preference. The downside is you can't work with it too long because the extra water tends to weaken the clay, especially if you're pulling up the clay more often. I'm going to create another shape to give you some ideas as to how you would like to shape your candle holder. Starting at the bottom, push your fingers inside the wall outward while you're supporting the outside with the other hand. Now I'll reverse it and push the outside of my fingers inward as I'm bracing the inside, about halfway up. Collar in the top half of the holder. Make sure your hands are wet so they don't stick to the clay. With the extra clay on the rim, flare the rim outward, keeping the pressure even. I'll color it in a bit more below the flare. Flare out the rim a little more. Soak up any water on the inside with my sponge on a stick. This time I'll use the soft palmer rib to get the extra slip off. I like using both the soft rib and the metal ribs because they're both flexible and conform nicely around the clay to give it a smooth finish. You can use any type of rib, but the flexible ones do work the best on curvy pots. Compress the rim one more time and smooth it out with a chamois. Put a nice foot on with the ultimate edger. I have a video on different ways you can use the ultimate edger. I left the link for you below in the show notes. Set the candle holders aside and check them until they're leather hard. The time you wait does depend on the climate you live in. I'm in the desert, so I wait an hour and then check every 15 minutes after that. You don't want to miss that window of time, or the clay will become too hard to get off the bat and decorate. I'm removing them with this wavy wire cutter. For this one, I'm slowly moving the pottery wheel while running the wavy wire through to create a swirl pattern. Nice. For this one, I'm not moving the pottery wheel at all, just running it straight through for a different pattern. Time to make the holes for the candle holder. I cut this paper into a circle and divided it into 6 sections. Place it on the top and use it as a guide to space the holes apart more evenly. Using some wasabi tape, I'm going to mark the area where I want to start poking the holes and where I want to stop. This doesn't have to be perfect. These are just guidelines for the holes to be spaced out evenly. I'll start with the 1/8 inch hole cutter. After I poke the first hole through, I can take the tape away. I'm going around in a circle making 7 small holes. The clay is at a nice leather hard stage. This is important when you're creating holes. If the clay is too soft, it'll clog the holes and stick to the hole cutter. If it's too hard, the clay can crack. Now I'll go one size up with the 1/4 inch hole cutter. Continuing around and down, making 4 holes. You can hit the like button anytime during this video. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when a new video comes out. Then finish up the pattern with the 1/2 inch hole cutter, going downward to the base. Move to the next area and make the same pattern. Now I have the same amount of space to create the same pattern 2 more times. I've made a pattern like this before and ran out of room for the 3rd pattern. That's why I mark my starting and ending spots. The hole cutter cuts through the clay better if you give it a twist. And the clay is less likely to stick to the hole cutter. Poke out any clay from the holes. You can leave the clay pieces in the candle holder and take them out once the clay dries more. They won't stick to the bottom of the candle holder. Looks good. I like this pattern. Now for the next candle holder. For this candle holder, I'm making a cross on the top with the wasabi tape. Then diagonally down the sides. Again, to make sure the spacing is the same and I don't run out of room. I'll start with the largest 3/4 inch hole cutter, 1 inch down from the rim. This time make 1 hole and go all the way around, creating 4 large holes, using the tape as guidelines. I personally don't make sure the space in between is exact. I don't think anyone's going to measure the distance between the holes. Then the next size down, a 1/2 inch hole cutter, and make 2 holes diagonally. Do the same all the way around. If you don't get a clean, smooth cut, you can wait for the clay to harden more. Or you can apply a little cornstarch to the candle holder and the hole cutter. Then the next size down, a 1/4 inch hole cutter, and make 3 holes diagonally, all the way around. There are many different patterns that you can create. You can draw out a pattern, or you can randomly make holes, all the same size, or mix it up with several different sizes. Have fun with it. The hole cutter sizes range from 1/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. Now the smallest 1/8 of an inch hole cutter. This time I'll make 5 holes diagonally the rest of the way down to the base, all the way around. Over the years, I've used these hole cutters for different projects. Drainage holes for planters and holes for earring holders with this 1/8 of an inch hole cutter. The different sizes come in very handy. Poke the extra clay out through the holes. I like to make this pattern because I think it looks cool, especially when the light shines through, forming a pattern on the wall next to it. There you have it, a fun, simple way to create candle holders. Once they're dry, into the kiln they go for a cone 04 bisque firing. Keep an eye out for my next video where I'll show you how I glaze them. Then I'm going to overglaze them with the mother of pearl. You watching helps me to make more videos like this one. Now head on over to my how to load a kiln video or my 21 beginner kiln questions. If you do, I get to play with more clay. Till next time, let's stay dirty